I'm Ankita, an editor at the Fifth Estate, and I have with me Khushi Madhugiri Prashanth, who's contesting for the post of Cultural Affairs Secretary, Arts. Khushi, my first question for you is, Litsoc has clearly been receiving dwindling participation over the last few years. Can you explain why this is the case? Why is it that the existing system for Litsoc worked well a few years ago, but not now?
So Litsoc in general, the purpose of it is to get more non-cultural people into Litsoc, is to look at the ground, which is the hostels. And the reason why it worked well in the past is because hostel fees used to be there in the past. Senior to junior connect was there, which is kind of lacking right now because after the pandemic, we don't really have that knowledge transfer or connection to culturals anymore, I would say. So what's necessary here is to incentivize individuals, right? Which is back to my point on my manifesto, goodies for Litsoc, is to sort of incentivize individual participation through merch, through t-shirts, and also to give physical incentives to Litsoc, to like hostel rooms, so that people can have a better like inter-hostel culture. For example, in hostel zones, if we have more events, that would help. And people would feel a connection to their hostel as well, which is the point of Litsoc. It's to get people involved together rather than, just sitting in a room watching Netflix, because that's what culturals I feel is competing with right now.
So my second question for you is, Milans have been consistently underperforming over the last few years. It's clear that the current method is ineffective, yet the events continue without any modifications. How do you intend to revamp the structure and approach of Milans to set the team up for success rather than repeating past shortcomings?
So Milans are required for us to increase our Sarang footfall as such, so that people from outside colleges come to Chennai. But one thing that's been happening is there's a severe knowledge gap. There's a lack of, before the pandemic, after the pandemic, knowledge transfer that's required, which definitely lacking in the student relations team, I would say, because the events team handles usual events. And that connection between the student relations team and the Milans team needs to be improved for one. And we also need to focus on more Chennai colleges and more Tamil Nadu colleges, because doing Milans in faraway places isn't really helping us get participation to Sarang as such, and we need to incentivize those winners so that they actually come to Sarang and help increase the footfall, which is the goal here.
My third question for you is, in your manifesto, you mentioned transitioning from clubs to community to lift the burden of event management on clubs. However, for clubs with higher logistics or for events that need club inventory, such as culinary and music clubs, the responsibility of setting up the event still falls on the club teams. How do you propose to address this issue and ensure that the distribution of event management responsibilities does not fall on the clubs, overworking them further?
So clubs do events to propagate their art form. So clubs are not event management teams, which is the purpose I'm trying to solve with my point clubs to community. But one thing I've seen is that when clubs have a lot to do, like a fandom night, there's a lot of ambience work that needs to be done. General GSB members are willing to help us out. So it is to allow that platform for members to come forward and take part in, doing the events with the clubs as well. It does not mean that GSB members can handle logistics alone. That's not possible, and clubs will have to help them as well. And it's also to help with the kind of events that we do, because right now I think a lot of clubs are saturated with events. And GSB has a lot of interesting ideas which would contribute to our clubs and our art forms as well. So that's the whole goal we're trying to.
My next question for you is, how will you incentivize PG students to mentor and contribute to the clubs? The sphere, over the years, has tried to include PG students with little success. How is your proposal different?
So the lack of PG participation in culturals is because PG students are overburdened with the work that they have to do, and they don't really have time to invest in a POR like UG students. So one thing I think will fix things is for culturals to collab with the RAS more often, so that PG students get to know what culturals is, what Sangam is, what Sarang is. Three of my points are very relevant to PG students. One is PG mentors, where PGs who've done culturals before, we invite them in the form of mentors to host workshops and club activities. And those who are not, there's something called Culturals Retreat, which is an accessible space we'll be providing every week, which will have socializers like board games, karaoke, jamming sessions, for them to come and relax and unwind after their hectic schedules. We also have something called Sangam Stories, where clubs do events in open spaces like HFC, CLT, so that all people, including PG students, can see these and be incentivized to join them. They can know what clubs are, what the clubs do, and their art forms. So I think that's what PG students can get more incentivized to participate in culturals with.
My final question for you. In your proposal to take Sarang to Zanzibar, what are the estimated costs involved? Considering the logistics of managing a fest from a distance, how do you plan to oversee its organization effectively? Lastly, given the relatively smaller size and lesser brand image of the new campus in Zanzibar, with it having only 45 students, do you believe that the effort invested will yield tangible results?
So in my point in taking Saran to Zanzibar, what I'm referring to is a pre-Saran publicity event that the students in Zanzibar will be doing, and we will be helping them set up culturals through knowledge and helping them with logistics as to how they can actually do it. So I've spoken to the students there, I've spoken to the director as well. They have a little bit of interest in it, but they're not exactly sure as how to proceed with things, which is where we will come in and we will be helping them. With respect to if the efforts will yield to results, it will be helping Saran as such, RIT Madras, with their international brand image and promotion so that we can have, it's essentially a pre-publicity event for us in Zanzibar.
Thank you and all the best for your campaign.